Venus and Sagittarius, all right? Venus and Sagittarius. These people, man, they are people who like to entertain people. And they like to, be a part of fun. They like to create fun for everybody, in their life. People know them as that person and other things like, damn, this guy's a fun person to be around. But of course, since it's a fire sign, they could get upset when people don't want to be around them. They're like, damn, I don't get it. Why don't you want to be around me? Typically when they're young, they're like that. And they'll be like, damn, this person doesn't want to have fun then. If they're not with me, they ain't trying to have fun. They ain't trying to go on, adventures. They ain't trying to explore new things, is the key there, And, they're more hurt, of course, because this is the heart chakra. This is Venus, right? So they're more hurt by the ones that, they care for too. They expect these people to be around more. These are their friends. These are their family. And when they, don't heed calls to them, they do feel hurt. But they won't show it. These people tend to be positive more. But some people will show it now. Some people will show it now. It depends on what their sun and moon sign is. But they'll be like, okay, you don't like me? That's fine. Then somebody else is there. Because they do know about that. Somebody else is there. You don't want to be there? That's fine. I'll go find somebody else and be with them. However, when they go do that, they do like that, right? Trying to understand other friends or whatever, you betrayed them or whatever, they don't take it, like that, but they do when they love somebody. They actually do when they love somebody. Take it that way, very upset, and they're like, you ain't anything after that. They move forward. They move on from that shit. They know that there's other things out there for them. If you, did whatever they, didn't like, you couldn't eat costs the fun times they were trying to create. You didn't want to understand them enough. That's how they'll view it. And, I don't necessarily agree. Everybody's situation is different. But you weren't caring for them enough. They had to go somewhere else. They're like, I have to find somebody who will care for me. And, he calls what I like to entertain, what I like to do, what I like to seek. If you don't like that, fuck it, I'll find other people, but they will be hurt. See, they don't, but they just don't show it, and they glance over. It's something that you gotta kind of just know. And when you come back into their life, they may be, like, damn, like now you want to come back. You want to come back to me when I told you shouldn't have left me in the first place. I told you to, stick around and do this, but you want to come back to me now. I was right and you were wrong, but you always said I was wrong, or you didn't want to get down with what I wanted to then, but now you want to get down now. So they will be upset. You should have just trusted them in the first place, because this person also doesn't, lie that much. They like to be blunt about, what they love, and if they love you, they will tell you too, and I'm talking about the people they actually love, their family members, their, significant others, whoever, not just, some people out here in the fucking streets, they ain't gonna do that, they'll actually mean it, they'll show you certain sides of them that they don't show other people, their more vulnerable side, the more, not so whatever, but that comes with time. And then, if you can't stick around or whatever, they'll still find somebody, they'll find somebody else, they'll care for somebody else. And they will do that too. It's like not a matter of, it won't happen, it will happen, and they won't worry about what you're doing, like at all. They won't, bat an eye to it or anything. Oh well, you should have, stuck around and other stuff. That's what they'll tell you. I'm still having fun either way. Because I admit my own light. And what I love, I seek. That's the key here. They seek what they love. And if they don't love you, you'll know. They won't be around no more. They'll be gone. And you just gotta be cool with it, or understand why and other things. You probably weren't fun enough. You probably were moving too slow for them. And in this chocolate pool, it's not the way you're supposed to love necessarily, but that's how these people love. They feel as though, okay, well, and they'll let you know too, I gotta, go now because you ain't doing, or you ain't submitting, you ain't, doing the things that I like to do. You want to do other stuff. You want to fuck around with other people, or you want to, nod and nod what I'm here, why I'm important. You don't want to understand me enough. So I'll go away, and find that, because they always do. Their heart, seeks excitement, adventure. They like to explore things. These people do that. So if you can't stick around, they ain't gonna be upset. But you likely be upset. But they will be if they did invest some time into you. They actually would. They won't forget about you, but they ain't gonna show it. They're gonna show themselves having fun. They'll have that fun, but just will never be the same. They will remember you though. They just might not, be like that. They'll be like, only at certain moments when they're alone and shit will they be like, damn, that was a good person. That was a person that, they might regret it. They probably won't though, because this person don't do that. Not necessarily unless, sun, moon is something else. This is Sagittarius and Venus. Remember that? They are quick to move on. But if it's from somebody else, they'll create fun somewhere else. And creating fun somewhere else is creating new moments, new experiences with this person. But that is, Sagittarius and Venus. So you gotta, do what you do. If you feel the need to tell somebody you gotta get the fuck away from them, do it. I don't love you no more. I don't want to spend time with you no more. I want to spend time with other people, or I want to spend time doing other stuff with others. This is not what it is anymore. And you will typically, if it's similar signage in the sun, if it's fire, you'll let them know, or even any type of wind. But if you're of earth signage or water signage, you gotta just not be scared to be I just can't do it anymore. I can't fuck around with you. I can't be in the same room as you or anything. I have to get the fuck out of here. I have to find other things. That's what my heart wants. I want to run around and just explore more things. It can be seen as a bad thing, but it can also be seen as a good thing for this person. They don't have to hate themselves either, is what I'm trying to say too. And that's just how you are. That's the way you show love. You believe in telling somebody, and it might be harsh and other things, I don't like you, I don't da-da-da-da. And then you gotta go. But at least you did that, Just don't feel bad yourself later on. That's all I say. Don't feel bad, And in time, you might have to come back to that person, but you have to do that on your own time. Nobody can tell you you're right. You do that when you need to. But that is Sagittarius and Venus for y'all. But stay cool on the corner if you can. Probably not. But stay cool on the corner anyway.